Psalm 19, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength, my Redeemer. Amen.
Nice haircut.
Whoa, did you hear that? He said, nice haircut. I shared a little story at lunch about my haircut. Tough crowd here, tough crowd. Actually, that was totally planned. This is the hair I used to have. I went to Denver, Colorado for a suicide prevention conference, and I'm a guy, we don't plan very well. I walked by a Great Clips. I said, hey, I need a haircut. And I went in, and this is about a month's worth of growth. It was short. Oh, it's funny to us guys because we don't care. I'm getting no love from the bald guys whatsoever. No, I got it. But here's the kicker. After I got this awful haircut, 2 weeks later, I was getting married. Oh, I was fine with it. It's now memorialized in our wedding album. It will forever and ever. Good timing, eh? All right, we prayed. We got the slide going. And the clicker was so close. We'll have to take one more step. There it is. My name is Dennis Gillan. Suicide stinks, right? That's all I got. Thank you, everybody. Take care. I'm out of here. I wish I could say 2 words. I wish I could say 2 words and split. But I owe you more than that. I owe you more than that. That's the accounting major in me. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. In fact, quick note on this talk, I am not a mental health professional. I'm a mental health advocate. And that's a big difference. Big difference. I like when there's pros in the room. I'm not. I was an accounting major when some stuff happened in my life. And when somebody knew my story, and I went in my man cave, and you all got one. I know you have one. Everyone has one. All dudes have one. I went in my man cave for years and didn't want to talk about what happened in my life. And people would come up to me, and they'd know my story, and they would say, Dennis, this person has been impacted by suicide. You should talk to them. And I would try to do a little funny thing, like divert them with a bad haircut joke and try to get out of there. That's a technique called the deflection technique. I was deflecting. Guys, DC Comics has a hero. She, that's your clue, is the greatest deflector ever. She wears those bracelets. What's her name? All right. I talk a lot of colleges. This is my Wonder Woman. Oh, yeah. Oh, now I got your attention, right? After lunch, everybody, oh, yeah, Linda Carter, oh, yeah. Right? I have to tell the kids, this is your Wonder Woman, the next one, there it is. I would deflect, I would just try to get out of it. So what I ended up doing eventually was, and I'll do it today for you all, I'll put on the lasso of truth. Remember that tool she had? She would wrap up the bad guy. Yeah, and it was always a guy, right? It was never a girl, it was always a guy. She'd wrap him up, and if he did not tell the truth, the rope would squeeze, so she would interrogate him. So without the benefit of the lasso of truth, is that what it is, the lasso of truth? Yeah, without the benefit of that, I'm gonna tell you how I became a mental health advocate. I'm gonna take the bracelets off, all right? I'm gonna let you in. I'm gonna let this hit my heart. I was one of 5 kids living in, where was it? There we are. 5. That's actually a picture upper left after my little brother's baptism at St. Paul's School in Valley Cottage, New York. If anyone's familiar with that area, small little school. We had that room that everybody had, that cafe gymatorium, you know, it had bingo, CYO basketball, and yes, mass. It had it all. But that's actually at the church. That's in Congress, New York. And there we are, the Gillan 5. The Gillan 5. Sheila, Mark, Dennis, that's me, Janice, Matthew. I was at school from New York. I went to West Virginia University, about 8 hours away. I had one of those days. It was one of those weeks. We all have them. Think about school or work. You have a week where everything is due that week, everything. I had one of those weeks where I had a test in every subject. That ought to be illegal, right? It happens. It was a Wednesday, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. It was a Wednesday, This is how it worked. I lived off campus, so I had to pack my Wednesday books. I had 2 tests on Thursday, accounting and finance. I could barely pass one of them. Let's stack them up and see how he does. Great. So I start packing my Wednesday books. I start throwing my Thursday books in there. I lived off campus. I was going to go to the library, pull an all-nighter. I packed a baseball hat, because we all know that counts as a shower, right, fellas, right? Put the hat, I can go days with a hat. I can go days. Little deodorant, I'm good to go, right? Packed the baseball hat. Then the phone rang, and I knew it was going to be a long day. I just didn't know how long a day it was going to be. On the phone was my sister Janice. My younger sister Janice. She said, "Dennis, you need to come home. Mark, my older brother, died in a car accident." That's what they told me. Nobody knows what to say. You guys know why I'm here. You guys know what I do. Mark died by suicide. He battled depression for years, and gosh darn it, the disease state won. He died in a car, but it never left the driveway. We don't have to talk about means or any of that stuff. Gone is gone. It doesn't matter. So I made a huge mistake. That was a Wednesday night. Thursday, I get on a plane from Pittsburgh, fly to Newark, and I went home and back in a flash. Thursday, I'm back in New York. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, the funeral. Sunday, I hang out. Monday, I head up back to school. Tuesday, I'm back in classes. That's how we used to handle stuff, fellas. We pretended nothing happened. And that's bull. We just went on. I think my dad went back to work, I went back to school. Business as usual for the Gillan 4, not 5 anymore. And that's not a good reaction. We just plunge right back into it. I should have, if I could call an audible in my life right there, I would have taken a time out. School can wait. I would have taken care of me, maybe the family going to therapy. And I had access to all these good services at my school. Counseling, there was a Greek prayer, I was in a fraternity, there's a Greek prayer group, I went like once or twice, then blew it off. I had places to go to take my grief, but I didn't go to any of them. What I ended up doing is, I didn't run into the arms of a competent counselor. I didn't even seek refuge in the church. I went to the bars. And I don't know what it is about the internet, but the internet loves cats. I love dogs. I don't know why, right? And everywhere I go to school now, I have to tell the kids, when I speak at colleges, I say, hey, I was 20. The drinking age was 18. And all the administrators, and now that I have 2 boys, I think the drinking age should be 31. What do you say? Nah, they can have it, they can have it. What we agree on in this room is that's a negative coping skill. Fair enough? Fair enough. I was hiding, I was running from the pain that was Mark. Not a good reaction, right? Never say it can't get any worse. If I was drinking at what I thought was an Olympic level, my little brother Matthew was a pro. He was doing it too, and we never talked about Mark. I can't even look over at that screen with that Ranger shirt. I can smell him to this day. We used to drink a lot, Matt and I, together, but we never talked about Mark. One night in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, I moved to Carlisle, Pennsylvania. We had a recycling program, and Matt and I were up drinking hard, and I went upstairs. I took all the beer cans off the counter, because I didn't want to get in trouble, and I put them in the recycling bin, and I went to bed. I tapped out somewhere around 2:30 in the morning. I woke up the next day, and there were 8 more beer cans on the counter. Matthew was drinking alone. Should have been a clue. Should have been a clue. 11 years after we buried Mark, my sister Janice calls again, and to this day when she calls me, my heart skips a beat. This is the toughest slides I got right here, fellas, then we'll go on to other stuff, but look at that guy. 11 years later, the phone rings. In a drunken stupor with access to lethal means, Matt is gone. That's 2. 1 is awful. In the United States, we have 48,334. Those numbers came out like 3 weeks ago. You don't know how bad I wanted to come to this conference when Jason called. You know why? 78% of all completed suicides are guys. Get your head around that for 1 second. Now I'm going to use my accounting degree and round up to 80%. That's 4 out of 5. The women are not off the hook. They have more attempts. But when it comes to completions, it's us. 78%. 48,000, it's like a jumbo jet falling out of the sky every day. You would hear about that on the news every day. Roughly 130 a day. I could do stats, I could do death by PowerPoint all day long. I'm telling you, one is bad, 2 is awful. So now what do? I'm in Carlisle, Pennsylvania when Matthew dies. And I'm driving home, I have 4 hours to get home. And this is a total guy story here. I'm on the way back home after being in New York for a couple days. I started thinking about like real life again. I said, oh crap, the lawn. I have to mow my lawn. It was July. And when you know it, when I pulled in, be a good neighbor, when I pulled in my driveway, somebody mowed my lawn, and I will not forget that till the day I die. That one little gesture. But when I got back to Carlisle, I'm like, what am I going to do? Am I going to drink? Going to continue to drink? If alcohol helped with Mark, what's going to help with Matthew? How am I going to cope there? All right, I did not do this. And I often share the stage with somebody in recovery and think about all of us here. We're all recovering from something, and everybody loves a good comeback, right? I recently shared the stage with a guy who went to rehab for heroin 12 times. He now does a thing called Celebrate Recovery, and he talks about it. We never give up on people. I give this talk at a homeless shelter in Columbia, South Carolina, and I forgot this slide was up on my thing. I would have taken it out, because this affects everybody now, from Maine to LA. It used to be little pockets, it's everywhere now. Everywhere. And if you dance with this devil, my heart goes out to you. So I'm at this homeless shelter, and I forgot this slide was coming up, and I could see it. When you do PowerPoint, I could see the preview. I look over like, oh crap, I would have taken it out. Some of these folks are in the homeless shelter because of this addiction. And when it came up, almost to a man, they said, no, you didn't do that. Like they were rooting for me. And then I had to relieve them and say, I didn't do that. And they all went like, woo. And I thought that was the coolest thing. That they were honestly like, don't do it, don't do it. They've danced with that, they know what it can do. And they would say, Dennis, don't do it. And I didn't. I did quite the opposite. When I got back to Carlisle, I decided to take a time out. We've all been there. Everyone in this room has been at one of those proverbial forks in the road. And you're sitting there going, what am I going to do with my life? We've all been there. Everyone here. What am I going to do? And I sat there thinking about alcohol and my life and the loss of Mark and then the loss of Matthew, and I went dark. I mean, I went really dark for a while. And I made one really good decision in that darkness. I decided to take a break from drinking. Now, are you all ready to be blown away by my PowerPoint skills? Are you ready? Check this out. Check out the old man. Ooh. Okay, my son did that. I have no idea what he did. I said, keep it in, Brendan. Love it. All right. I kicked those guys out. I took a time out. And I'm happy to report that the timeout is still going on today. It's 25 years, 7 months, 15 days. Oh, thank you. My fragile male ego appreciates that. But I'm not really counting. But the internet will count for you. And I can tell you right now, it's 9,361 days. I just did it in the lobby. You put in the day, I know the last day I got drunk. I know that day. It was the night before we buried Matt. I know that day. All I have to do is look at the mass card, look at the day, the 27th, and I have to go back one night, and that's the last time I got drunk. So it's like a bittersweet anniversary for me. Like, hey, 25 years was last summer. Like, yeah, it's 25 years without Matt. And my biggest regret about that number is it's not higher. Because maybe I could have seen what he was going through, but I was too busy in my own little drunk bubble. Now, remember what I do for a living now. I go around mostly at colleges. And I know my place. I have 2 boys, and they drink all those IPAs and all. I don't even know what language they're talking anymore. I'm lost. But I cannot go around to colleges, think about this, and go, hey, kids, don't drink. They're like, beat it, Grandpa, Get off the stage. Let me throw this back to you, the audience. If you're going through something, and you will, life isn't all Skittles and unicorns. Something will happen. Do me a huge favor. Try going through it sober. That's all. That's what I did with Matt. I just said, let me get through this sober. This is way bigger than me at the moment, but I'm still growing. So I tried it sober, and that's how long it lasted. Not a bad run. And then here's another decision I made. Oh, that clicker. I have to do this the whole, it's like 2 feet away, just 2 feet. I went and saw a counselor. That's a big thing for a guy now. Remember, I had to swallow that male ego and had to go see a counselor. One of the greatest decisions I ever made, right behind drinking. In fact, the sobriety and the counseling piece are the only reason I can stand here today and tell you this story. I went in there, and I'll tell myself again, I'm being totally honest here all the time, I'm wide open, is when I went into my first counseling session, I looked over my shoulder to see if anyone saw me going in. Now, I don't give a rat's rear end who sees me. I know I need it. If you see me down in Powdersville, South Carolina, I live in Greenville, I go to Powdersville to go see this girl Beth. If you see me on the way in, I will wave to you. Hey, where you going? Going to my mental health appointment. Going to see my psychologist. I'll be out in an hour. I know that my mental health is just as important as my physical health. In fact, probably at my age, a little more important. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to the Olympics anytime soon, right? I think that day passed, right? Unless they have one for like backgammon or something. If that becomes a sport, I'm going for it. But that's it. So there's a real stigma about men and counseling. I mean, we need to punt that to the curb. It's the yin, the yang. Your mental health is just as part of your physical health. In your mental health is your spiritual health. I know where I am today. Look who's looking over my shoulder. It's a big part of it. So please, punt on that stigma. If someone says, I'm going to psych, what do you need? The person I see most of, if you've never been, I see the psychologist. That's who I see. And I've had a bunch in my life. You got to find one that works for you and stick with it. If I need medicine, I go down the hall to the psychiatrist. They have the writing, that's what they can write. So that's how it works at office. And I need a better picture. This guy looks a little creepy, doesn't he? But it's awesome. I'm telling you, I can't say enough about it. That's enough of that commercial. So that's it, counseling and sobriety. Let's look at some of the resources we have available for suicide prevention, including the church, including this building and the people around you. Your healthcare provider, they did some studies, and people that died by suicide have often seen their primary healthcare provider within the last 6 months. Now, I'm of the age, and some of you may be able to relate to this, I don't like going to get a physical anymore because of this one test. Okay, the finger's the clue, right? So I'm going in for that one, which I'm already dreading, and the nurse comes in, she starts doing this whole screening, blood pressure, my SO2 level, she's checking everything, and then she goes, oh, Mr. Gillan, I'm sorry, but I have to ask you this question. Have you been sad lately? Coaching moment for a mental health advocate. I said, please don't ever apologize for asking that question. This may be the only time I left the house to come to the doctor. You better be ready when someone says they are sad. You better have a response. If you're going to screen them really well. So I had to coach her up a little bit. I just never apologize for that question. In fact, I want you to lean in a little bit. I said, my name is Dennis Gillan. I gave her a card. This is what I do for a living. I need you to ask that question from your heart. So hopefully we made an impact that day. So you go there. Hey, when I went and found when I moved to Greenville from Columbia, South Carolina, I went on Psychology Today, because there's no way I can remember to type that. I went on Psychology Today, typed in the zip code, and that's how I found Beth down in Powdersville. Now, my company, when I first went to see a counselor, my company had an employee assistance program. That was awesome because it was free. Well, it was in my paycheck somewhere, but it was paid for. They gave me 8 free sessions, and then then we went from there. Then my insurance picked up. I will tell you, in my life, fellas, I had really good insurance, and I've had lousy insurance. I paid cash money. wrote a check to go see my counselor. That's putting your money where your mouth is, right there. All right, so look at that. We'll talk a little bit about the Suicide Prevention Lifeline and also the text line. I don't know if you guys know it, but the kids today, they're into texting. My two knuckleheads. Has this ever happened to you? And I use that as a term of affection. Martin and Brendan, I will be texting them, and then I can't keep up, so I call them, and they don't pick up. You got to see when I say that at colleges, they start laughing. I said, that's guilty laughter. You all do all the, I'm trying to train those kids. Don't do that to your parents. One of them's fully out. Martin is out, and he's adulting right now. I don't have much, control over him. But the younger guy, he's the worst. I can go like a week without hearing from him. He's still at Clemson. So all I have to do is send him that one magical text. Hey, dude, no more money. And then he calls me. It's amazing how that works. Oh, your meal card's out? Sucks to be you. You should have called last week when I texted you. So do that. Those people at the homeless shelter, they have roommates. They cannot use their phones at night. They can't do it. So what they end up doing is they can use the text line. A trained counselor will get a hold of you. 911 for emergencies. A lot of what I do now is I train police officers on how to do a mental health well check for someone who's suicidal. And they're getting really good at it. They're really getting, it's a different call than any other call. It's a mental health well check. They're very well versed in this. Through the National Alliance of Mental Illness, NAMI, great organization, they're training these police officers, first responders. I had a kid come up to me one day and said, Mr. Gillan, which made me feel really old, he said, Mr. Gillan, if I call 911 on my roommate, he'll be really mad at me. To which I responded, I wish my brothers were mad at me. Big deal. Big deal. Seriously, if it comes from a place of love, it comes from a place of love. So be it. If Matt and Mark walked right by now and they flipped me the bird, I'd be like, all right, they're with us. So don't ever be afraid to pull that card out, the 911. We can do it. All right, volunteering. Who volunteered today to make this conference this awesome? Where's our volunteers? Raise your hand. They're out there somewhere. They're out in the lobby plot. Yeah, give them a hand. They get all these benefits today, and the rest of you who did not volunteer, you get none of them. No, the last one I love. It makes you happy. They'll be happy tonight when it's all done, right? They'll sleep well tonight. Volunteering is really good for your head. You ever do this? You ever sign up for something like Habitat for Humanity? You go put a roof on, you wake up, it's drizzling that morning, you're like, oh crap, today? And you try to like weasel out of it, and they end up going anyway because you signed up, and all the men are going, and you got to go with them, and then you get back in the car, and you're so glad you went. Even dragging the kids, there's studies that show even when they're voluntold, kids, you ever been voluntold? You ever been dragged in and do something? We're doing this today. Even when they're voluntold, they get these benefits. So volunteer, I'm preaching to the choir right here. All you guys volunteered your time today. You go back to your churches, you're making things happen. I got the right group today. So keep doing it. Use the tools you have. I love this guy, and I can watch fail videos all day long on YouTube. Everybody has their vice, right? I don't drink, I don't smoke, but that internet, holy moly. There's fail videos. Look at this guy. He's got a hat on backwards. He's got sunglasses, but yet he feels the need to do this to shield the sun from his eyes. The point of this slide is for you all, is if you turn the hat around, you go see a counselor, you put the sunglasses on, maybe you take your time out from some of the stuff that's negative coping skills, whatever it is, then you won't need to put your hand up here. It'll be easier. So use the tools you have is the gist of this slide, all right? So I have to like, it's like the old TV antenna. I got to put one foot up, right? Remember, we're so close, Chris. There we go. I'm just going to read this out loud to you. No, I'm not going to do that. This is like everyone's PowerPoint nightmare when there's all these words. I had to look up suicides in the Bible. There's a program called Soul Shop. I've done some work with them. Look at those suicides in the Bible I love the first one. The first one's total male pride. Abimelech got a stone dropped on his head by a woman, and he didn't want to die because a woman killed him, so he told his buddy, "Yo, I'll kill myself," because he didn't want the woman to have that glory. We keep going. Samson, he knew what he was doing when he pushed those pillars. He knew he was part of it. He looked up. He could see the roof. Saul took a sword and fell on it. That's in Samuel. What was interesting about Saul was the enemy was coming to get him in Samuel. He knew they were coming. Maybe they could have given him grace and forgive him. You know, he'd been injured by some archers. But the sword bearer one really gets me. Like, that's like a caddy in golf. You know, if you get fired by your guy, you can go get another job, right? I would have stood there like, "Hey, anyone need a sword bearer? There's your guy." You know, he takes his life. So they're in the Bible. And then Ahithophel, he abandoned David, went to go work for Absalom, and that didn't work out so good. Zimri, he was a king that shouldn't have been a king. He helped kill another king. He got his. And this is the one that always, we heard it today in the homily. We heard the name Judas, you know, when they were debating Jesus, like, isn't this the brother of? And they mentioned Judas. And Judas is probably the most probably the suicide you think of when you think of the Bible. Now, he totally ruined that name from going forward, right? That was a biblical name, Judas. There were a lot of Judases back in the day. He came along. Anyone here named Judas today? It's what we name our pit bull, right? You know, go get him, Judas. You know, it's gone. But I'm telling you, if you think about Judas, I know he was fulfilling a prophecy. And this is as far as I'm going to get in the Bible because I'm just skimming the surface. But he could have been an awesome apostle. Think about Peter. Think about Peter. He 3 times denied, and he went on to be a rock star. Judas could have done the same thing. He could have. But we know the book is written and he was fulfilling a prophecy that was in Isaiah. So they're in there if you want to do further study. So follow me. We call this the journey towards recovery. Towards recovery. I don't know if I'm ever going to get there. That's okay. I leave Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and I moved to Chicago. And here's how church worked for us in Chicago. We dropped the kids off downstairs, and then we would go upstairs, and this is a total guy thing. We'd sit around a hall called Fellowship Hall, and we would eat donuts until the kids were done, and then we'd go into the service, right? Anyone do that? We called it fellowship. We talk about our fantasy football picks, you know, all we do is talk smack the whole time, and then the kids would come up and we'd go into the service. On this particular Sunday, I come up the stairs, I'm starving Marvin, and I drop the kiddos off, and I come up the stairs, and I go, "Where are the donuts? They're gone." All the guys are sitting around like, "Hey, somebody took them." And some guy goes, "Yeah, there's some community program going on upstairs. They took the donuts." And I said, "Guys, I love you, but I'm starving. See you. Smell you later." I go upstairs. I could sit through anything for a donut, right? The history of the organ, tell me more. You know, just shoving the sugar in my pie hole. I'm in. I get up there. I get set up right next to the table. I got my donuts. Does anybody want to guess what they're talking about on that particular day? Suicide. What does a guy who buried 2 brothers to suicide not want to talk about? And those people in Chicago, God bless them, when I got there, people would ask me, "Dennis, how many kids in your family?" You all know the answer is this. What would I say? This. 3. I talked about my 2 sisters back in New York, and I would not talk about my brothers. It was not happening. Not happening. So I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, what do I do? The woman starts talking. I'm sitting over there. The door is over there. I would have to walk right in front of her to leave. And I wanted to leave. But I also like donuts. It was one of those internal debates, like, it's maple frosted. Okay, I'll stay. I stayed. On the way out, I grabbed her card, and I put it in my back pocket. And when I was ready, and this is a total guy move, when you're ready, I sat, and that card stared a hole in me on my desk for months. And finally, I got up the guts to call her. I said, "Stephanie Weber, I came to your program a couple months ago. My name is Dennis Gillan. I lost 2 brothers to suicide." She said, "Stop. Get your butt in here." That's it. So I went and met her. She lost her mom to suicide. She ran the local suicide prevention hotline. She ran it. That's how I got to work. You heard in my intro, the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. I ended up working from 8 to 12 on Thursdays. That was my shift, 8 to 12. The kids were little, 7:30 bath. They go in, they leave, they take a bath. I would go, leave Thursdays, 12 midnight, get home about 12:31. We could power through Friday. We could make it. It was mostly teleconferences. I'd be checking my email anyway on mute. We all do that, right? 12 weeks of training. 12 weeks of training to get up on the lines. They just don't throw you out there. We went through all kinds of different scenarios, domestic violence, all this stuff. The last Saturday was a full Saturday, probably like today, 9 to 3, 8 to 3, all on suicide. I cried the entire day. My notebook to this day for that day has just tear stains all over it. But at the end, I graduated and they put me on the lines. And let me tell you about one of those calls I had on the line. We're going to go to risk factors. We'll go back to Kyle, and then I'll come back to risk factors. One night I get a call. From this kid, and you can do this, by the way. You can do this yourself. Kyle calls up and says, "Sir, this is not for me, it's for a friend." And Kyle had clues about his friend, which is really good because it was two guys. It was Kyle and this dude. And the names have been changed to protect the awesome. Kyle's awesome because he called up. Most of us guys live in that lower right-hand quadrant of this cartoon. Check it out, right there. Everything's fine, right? Everything's fine. Meanwhile, we could be that. That was me. I'm not pointing any fingers, but that was me after Matthew died. But if you saw me out in the street, I'm living the dream. That's my answer. Everyone say, "How you doing?" I'm living the dream. Inside I'm dying, but that's us. That's total dude move, right? I'm living the dream. I'm living the dream. Funny little side story about that, I'm living the dream. I'm on an airplane, and when I do this talk, usually at night at schools, I'm really tired. Tired in a good way, but I'm tired. I open up my heart. So I'm on an airplane flying back. In fact, I was flying back to Charlotte, late night flight, and there's an empty seat. I'm like, sweet. And I see this guy coming down the aisle, and he is like Chatty Cathy. I'm like, no, not that guy. Right? He was like, "Hey, how you doing?" He's just talking to everybody. "Hey, what's happening?" He's checking out the stewards. "Hey, what's going on?" And he's like way too wired. And sure enough, he sits down next to me. I'm like, oh, crap. We've all been there. I love people, but just not tonight. So he's talking to the people like across the aisle. Just, "Hey, where are you headed?" He turns his attention to me. And he says, "How are you doing?" What's my answer? I'm living the dream. I said it real low, like, I'm living the dream. And he goes, "Hey, I wish I was living the dream. I wish I were you." And I don't know where this came from, but I looked him square in the eye, and I said, "Nightmares are dreams too." And then he didn't talk to me the whole flight. Shut it down, bro. Shut it down. I love people, but just not after the talk. I'm like, oh, I'm exhausted. But that's us. That's us. So Kyle calls up. Let's get back to the star of this slide. Kyle calls up and says, "Sir, I'm getting texts from my friend, and they're getting a little dark." And on the helpline, my name was Marty, my middle name. I said, "What's up, Kyle?" He goes, "Marty, I just got a text from a friend. This is what it says. Let me know if you hear it. It says, 'Kyle, you've been a good friend.'" Ooh. Did you hear the past tense? You have, contraction, you've been. So Kyle's like, that's not right. So he knows. God bless Kyle. He knows something's up. And I said, "Kyle, where is he?" He goes, "I don't know where he is, sir. It's Chicago. He's out. He's not at his house." We went over there. I got some friends, and I'm telling him everything I know to do on the phone. Like, "Kyle, you got to activate a network. Whatever network that is, you got to cast a wider net. You got to get the adults involved. This is big. I don't like these texts." As we're on the phone, he goes, "Uh-oh." I said, "What's up, Kyle?" He goes, "I got another one." And it says, "Kyle, I'll see you from the other side." We're in pretty deep now. We're in the red zone, in my humble opinion. So I tell Kyle everything he's got to do, and it's like telemedicine. I'm on a phone somewhere in the middle of the suburbs of Chicago. "Good luck, Kyle, good luck." And I hang up the phone. About 2 minutes later, Kyle calls. He goes, "Sir, he's not picking up the phone." We had a rule at the helpline, pretty big rule. It said no outgoing phone calls, big letters in the back. And that makes sense, doesn't it? People should be calling us, not us calling them, or calling our buddies, and whatever. And before I could think it, my mouth said it. I said, Kyle, give me the number. And he gave it to me. And I dialed it. I have since asked for forgiveness from Stephanie Weber, the director. She said, no, you did the right thing. You always got to keep the women in your life happy. But I did it. And I dialed the number, and the kid does not recognize the number, and he picked up. And we talked. At first he was mad, he was pissed. He goes, who gave you my number? Blah, 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 blah. Somebody loves you, just calm down. And then we talked about an hour and a half. And for two guys on a phone, that's like a lifetime, right? That's serious. He mostly talked, I listened, and that's what they trained you on the helpline. You're just gonna listen. That's why God gave us two ears, one mouth. You know the drill, right? I would say, tell me more. And what it was a student who was failing in school, and as a parent of two kids, his solution was a way overreaction to show up in a box. And I said, no, you gotta do this. We ended up coming to a solution. He came to it, and he goes, I'm gonna tell my parents everything. I'm gonna lay it on the table. And every parent in this room would say, amen to that. Just let us know. We'll go to plan B. Kids, we'll go to plan C. We'll go to plan D. Maybe college isn't for you. Maybe an alternative. Maybe we'll figure it out. We'll go all around the alphabet to figure out what's right for you in this life. But showing up in a box is not cool at all. So that's where we ended up in the hour and a half. I could have called the cops on him. I could have done a ton of things. But we had a resolution. He had it. He came up with it. He goes, this is what I'm going to do. I will never know what happened to this guy. Remember, we hang up the phone, next one rings. But it's my hope and prayer that he's out there doing something great in Chicagoland, wherever he is. And the star of this whole slide is Kyle. So I want your head on a swivel. We're going to go over some warning signs. Just some warning signs. The first one I said there, when I go backwards, is the risk factors. Previous suicide attempts, history of substance abuse. I'm guilty charged there. This one stinks for me now. Losing a friend or family member. I have a family history. So I really got to be on my A game. My mental health condition, every now and then I go dark, I get it. Close friend, access to harmful or lethal means, relationship problems. I went through a divorce. I told you about the bad haircut. I was married for 25 years. And if I didn't drink during that, I'm never going to drink. That's a fact. Woo! I didn't want it, she wanted it, but God is good, and I found somebody else. So those are the risk factors. We go back through Kyle. Here are the warning signs. If somebody's talking about it, and obviously texts count as talk, according to the kids today, right? They may feel trapped, a burden. Remember that I told you about that text line? That they're doing some cool stuff on the back end, data mining, these words that keep popping, burden, trapped, pain. They pull them out, all right, we got something here, and they're starting to build these algorithms. So if someone goes on social media, they'll go, ho, 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 red flag here, red flag. Here's a tough one for dudes. The bottom left, take it all seriously and listen without offering fixes. Are we the fixes? We're the fixers, right? We put on our fix-it hat. That's the number one thing they had to teach me on that helpline is don't fix it. Be quiet. If a kid calls up and goes, I'm failing in school, my answer can't be, study harder. That doesn't help. In that moment, it doesn't. We've all tried it with some of our kids and our spouses. I'm having a bad hair day. Take another shower and wash it again. That's not helping. It doesn't work. So that's what's serious. So talk. They may have no reason to live, which is bullcrap. They have a reason. Just have to be patient to find it. Behaviors: substance abuse, increased use of alcohol or drugs. Guilty as charged. I'm not pointing any fingers. You've been to every motivational speaker. If you point a finger, 3 of them are pointing back at you. I did that. I told you about the drinking. I didn't tell you about the other stuff. Sleep. When I know something's going wrong in my life, I sleep like crap. Anyone else? Sleep. You're up at like 3 o'clock. Come on. The alarm's going to go off in about 2 hours. I need to sleep right now. That's a clue for me. And I went and saw a neuroscientist who gave 3 clues. 3 really good tips how to sleep better, and I'm going to give them to you. And by the way, this is a very safe room, right? We're good? Everyone's cool here? You're not going to laugh at the next picture? Because this is how I sleep now. I sleep with a mask. It's got to be dark. And I'm on the road a lot. Did anybody see on Twitter that little tip, that life pro tip? about if you're ever in a hotel, you take the hanger where you hang your pants and you take those clips and you clip the curtains. That was brilliant. And I was so mad that I didn't think about that. Because I've been in hotels forever and those curtains never line up. They never, and they light that thing up like a Christmas tree because security are like, oh. You know, now I pack the mask, but I also take the hanger for the pants and clip it. Brilliant. That's one I can use. So sleep, it's got to be dark. The room has to be dark. The other thing, it's got to be cold. There it is, 72 is too high. 64 to 68 degrees. I'm cheap, but I did buy a programmable thermostat to make this happen. You can hang meat in my house at night. It's that cold. I love it. I sleep like a champ. Last night I slept like a log. I woke up in the fireplace, just checking to see if you're still with me. It's too tough crowd here. Tough crowd. Is this mic on? Push the veal. 64 to 68, because your body naturally declines anyway. Your temperature drops. So 60, and the other thing is, if you open up the window to let the cold air in, you hear your neighbor's dog barking, right? There was a dog last night in the hotel. I'm not going to say who called the front desk, but his name sounds like Tremendous Gillan. Seriously, in a hotel, a little yipper. But here you go. I have a white noise machine now, and I have the app on my phone. I have a white noise app. And literally seconds, I told you I'm cheap, seconds after I bought the white noise app, seconds after I bought it, my kid goes, hey Dad, that's on Spotify. You saw the credit card out, you know I have a history of being real, I still have my communion money. Come on brother, help me out here. $4.99 down the tubes. It's on Spotify, Google, if you have that Google thing at home, Alexa, hey, you say Google, play white noise at night, I swear I don't hear the dog barking. So that's your tips. Those are aren't you glad you came today? All that spiritual stuff was great, now you're gonna sleep good, right? All right. It all matters. It's all big circle, that is human. All right, keep going around here. Oh, this clicker is getting me good. Behaviors, reckless, withdrawal, pulling away. Some folks today travel to this conference and somebody was supposed to be with you and they bailed at the last minute. I want you to check on them when they get back. Hey, you good? Are you good? People will withdraw and isolate. Maybe they don't feel like peopling. Check on them. Remember this, a stick alone can be broken by a child. A stick in a bundle cannot be broken. My brothers were alone when they died. We need to bundle up. This Catholic Men's Conference, this is a really good bundle. This is a great bundle. Get involved in your church. As we get older, guys, we lose friends. We just do. I watched my dad. He just recently died, 83. He was alone. We have to work at it. It's honest to goodness work. And if you want any tips, I saw there was a group from Hickory today. Are the Hickory? Where's my Hickory guys? They were somewhere. There you are. I did a TEDx talk in Hickory on loneliness. Check it out on the Googler. It's out there. So check that out. All these behaviors, cleaning out, visiting, saying goodbye. My mom is still alive. Think what she went through twice. My dad couldn't even talk about it. My mom called me up. She's 83. About a couple years ago, she calls me up. She's in Wilmington, North Carolina. And she says, Dennis, this is kind of weird. The woman down the street wants me to hold her wedding ring. Mom, that's really weird. And I think I know why you called me and not the girls. You know what I do for a living, Mom. I'm about to tell you something you don't want to hear, but you're going to hear this. You need to grab a friend. You need to go down and see that woman, and you got to ask her if she's suicidal. Think about that conversation. I can train anybody to say that word. It's a tough one, but you got to say it. A guy who lost 2 brothers to suicide is telling his mom, who lost 2 sons to suicide, you need to say the word suicide. She goes down there, she grabs a friend, she asks this woman, are you suicidal? Does anybody want to guess the response? She was. And the reason she wanted the ring out of the house is when the estate settled, she didn't want her brother to get it. That's an 80-year-old sibling rivalry that needs to go bye-bye. We need to bury that hatchet right now. Forgiveness, right? The first F in family today, forgiveness, faith and forgiveness. That needs to happen. That needs to happen. And then saying goodbye. I learned on Facebook Messenger years after Mark died, Mark was my older brother, that he went and visited somebody right before he died. He pulled in the driveway. She came downstairs and opened up the door for him to come in. He backed out of the driveway and left. Before cell phones, she just thought he forgot something. And she's typing this whole essay, and I'm reading it with tears in my eyes. Folks, that was the day. October 26, 1983. I wish Mark would have got out of the car. It would have changed the whole Gillan family trajectory if he would have said, Carol, I'm not doing so hot. And that's us, guys. That's a little pride. Mark had a little pride at that moment. He was so close to raising his hand that it almost changed everything for us. Now think about it. When I go around the country and I go over these warning signs, I'm talking to two people, only two. One, you may be around somebody in a mental health situation, and I need you to be aware of that. The head on the swivel kind of thing. See something, say something. That's the first person I'm talking to. Do you know who the second person I'm talking to? It may be you. You got to be mindful. I thought I was doing fine. You can go between the buckets. After Mark died, it took a while, but I thought I was doing good, and I was okay in this bucket. Then the phone rang, and guess what? I was in this bucket. I wasn't fine. I was not fine at all. So just be aware of that. That's called mindfulness. Know what's going on with you. And if Mark would have put his pride away, opened that door, and said, Carol, I have these weird thoughts, and they're not really good, we would have done everything. We would have sold our house to help him, knowing what we went through. All right, so talk, behavior, and moods, all kinds of moods. Suddenly happy or calmer. That's an interesting one, because I remember hearing about that on the helpline, and then I ran into a guy at a survivor of suicide loss meeting. I am a survivor of suicide loss. And we meet at a church in Columbia, South Carolina. When I lived there, we used to go. If you're a survivor and you need to talk to someone, those are great meetings. The other person in our voices, or it might be in this room, is somebody who went to that dark place, and it's called lived experience. We need to hear from you as well. But I'm a survivor of suicide loss, and I was at a meeting, and the guy told me his brother, all of a sudden everything was great, awesome, everything's great, awesome, great, awesome. And he's no longer with us. What he was trying to do, and he did it, he threw his big brother off his trail. He pretended, and we lost him. So look for this. The key is look for changes. Guys, they say, the same guy who gave me the sleep tips said this: we have three brains, one here, based on nerve endings, one here, and one here. Every now and then, you need to go with your gut. If something's off, if one of your buddies says something's going on, like, pull them aside and say something. Hopefully it's innocuous, it's not a big deal, but say something. So look for those changes. All right, I got involved with a couple walks, the Out of the Darkness walk. This is how I became a mental health advocate. I didn't talk about my brothers for years, but I could write about them. And one day I wrote a nice little journal entry on this donor drive page for the Out of the Darkness walks for the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. And I didn't know this. I didn't tell anyone my story. The people I went on vacation with never knew about my brothers. And at the bottom of this page, it says, do you want to send this to your contacts? And I said, sure. And I hit OK. And I use Gmail for my email, and it counts everybody you ever sent an email to as a contact. Yeah, 1,700 emails later, everybody got this letter. And it was unbelievable. This was meant to happen. The Lord works in mysterious ways. This needed to go out. What happened was everybody got this letter, and they asked me to do a talk. Right, that's me there, there's my sons there eating, that's their natural state, shoving food in their pie hole. Right before I go on though, they take a microphone like this and they pass it around the crowd, and everybody says the name of the loved one they lost. And I was doing okay. I moved to Columbia from Chicago. I don't know any of those names. I'm doing all right. I saw my mom take the microphone and pass it. She couldn't say Mark and Matt. I get it. This woman says the name of her husband. She goes, Bill Matthews. And she goes to pass the microphone around this little boy, 6, 7 years old, max. He's having no part of it. He pulls her arm down. The microphone ends up right in front of his mouth, and he says, my daddy. I'm so glad I was wearing sunglasses that day, because here come the waterworks. I'm bawling my eyes out right there. That kid just said it, my daddy. And that's why we got to get really cool talking about mental health. I'm in the suicide prevention business. I want to go upstream and get really cool talking about mental health. I don't want to go down there and hear my dad anymore. So I did that walk. I did another walk. There's Nikki Haley, upper left. She was the governor at the time. But this guy, Joe, comes up to me, and he heard me on the radio. I did a radio interview on NPR. It's called ETV in South Carolina, which makes no sense. But I do a radio interview on Thursday afternoons. I recorded it on a Thursday afternoon, and I started telling the producer, I said, I'm kind of a big deal. I'm going to tell all my friends I'm going to be on the radio. I said, when do you air this program? He said, sir, we air this Sunday mornings at 6:30. Crap, I'm telling no one. This guy comes up to me and goes, I heard you on the radio. I was like, wow, you're one of two people. And he hits me with this one. He says, sir, we both from New York. I said, yeah. We both live in South Carolina. I said, yeah. And then he goes, we both lost 2 brothers to suicide. I'm like, what? Whenever you think you're on the island of misfit toys and you're all alone, you're not alone. Does anybody get that reference, by the way, the island of misfit toys? Oh, I said that one time at a college, nothing, crickets. I said, kids, just because it's not on Snapchat doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I mean, it was dead air. You guys get it, right? Remember? It was Rudolph. Well, audience participation, we'll wrap it up right here. How well do you get it? We're going to go around the horn, and you're going to tell me why this toy was on the island of misfit toys. We'll start upper left, the elephant. Oh, good eyes. That was a gimme. That's a gimme. Water pistol. Jelly. Right side 1, left side nothing. We're guys. We're competitive. Choo-choo. Oh, they're fast over here. I heard a word. Come on now. Come on, left side. Come on. I'm a boat. Sinks. That doesn't float. Should be a Jack in the Box. Charlie in the Box. Quick little story. I'm at Youngstown State, Ohio, near Pittsburgh, right? Working class town. This kid has a Steeler hat on, Ben Roethlisberger's jersey. He's full-on mullet. I love this guy. I'm just describing him, not telling you anything bad about him. Awesome dude. He waits all the way. This auditorium is packed. He waits all the way till I get around to Charlie in the Box, and he stands up in the back and goes, I'm a Charlie in the Box. He does like a spot-on imitation. I lose it on stage. I thought it was the funniest thing I ever heard. He was just waiting like, come on, get to it, old man, get to it. How about the bird? Swims. I'm a cowboy that rides a, whoa, left side coming on strong now. How about a dolly for Sue? I heard something. Cries. She was rejected by Sue. Anyone here been rejected? Okay, just me? All right. A couple of them. It happens. She cries. Why would someone cry a lot? What's the medical condition that would make somebody cry a lot? Depression. In an interview on Wait, Don't Tell Me, Arthur Rankin, remember when the show came on, you were a kid, it said Rankin Bass, and you're like, ooh, this is going to be good? Arthur Rankin said we put a dolly for Sue on there for psychological reasons. That is absolutely brilliant for the 60s. We're talking about it now in 2020. Brilliant. A dolly for Sue. She was on there. I did this talk at a church for a Rotary Club in Columbia, and I had one of those lapel microphones. And at the end of the talk, this guy comes up to me to take the microphone, the sound guy. Our sound guy today is Chris. Wave, Chris. There you go. Hey, if you can hear me, thank Chris. So there Chris comes up to me and starts taking the microphone off me and goes, hey, that dolly for Sue story, I Googled it. You were right. I'm like, what do you think, I lie about it? We're in a church. Come on now. The lightning can come right through there and get me. He can do it. He can do it. All right, let's end right here. I'm going to end right here. I'm going to go a little bit over time. I'm going to end right here. Folks, this makes total sense now, doesn't it? It's a Swedish proverb. A shared joy is a double joy. It's in the Bible. A shared sorrow is half a sorrow. We're really good at sharing our joy. Hey, check out my hamburger. Check out my social media. Check out the cheeseburger I'm eating. We're taking pictures of food now, people. Come on now. Unbelievable, right? Joy, joy, joy on the internet. We're not really good guys at sharing our sorrow. So let's share our sorrow. And I'm going to wrap it up right there. That's the thing we got to do. But I want to do a little energizer. That's a pretty heavy topic. And we have a little competition going on here. Now it's me versus you. I do this at colleges. This is a little energizer. We're going to shake this off a little bit. Shake it off a little bit. This side, right down the middle. When I come this way, I want you guys to clap once. Very good. When I come back, I want you guys to go woohoo. Lame. You're coming back. You have a chance. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to put the microphone down. I'm going to go as fast as I can. It's your job to keep up with me, and I never lose. All right? In fact, stand up for this. Come on, here. We're going for it. Woo, it was a day. My name is Dennis Gillan. You now know why I think suicide stinks. And thank you very much for that standing ovation. You're too much.